everyone. My name is Brittany Lyla Rubin. Thank you for giving me a few moments of your time. If you're watching this, you're taking a chance on somebody that you probably never met before, and I do not take that lightly. So before we talk about this show, I think it's only fair that I introduce myself. I'm not a journalist, I'm not a political commentator, and I am certainly not somebody who claims to have all the answers. I have a background in art and business, and I am an animal advocate, but I am somebody who genuinely enjoys learning, meeting people, and hearing about their lives. And maybe that's exactly why this show exists. Because I've realized something over the last several years. Understanding does not mean agreement. And we're living in a world where everyone has something to say, but very few people feel heard. How did we go from becoming so quick to judge each other before hearing the story? Every person has lived a life that you know nothing about, experiencing fear of failure, heartbreak, loss, and the joy that surrounds wanting success. These are the experiences that shape how the world gets viewed, or how most of us choose our professions, political associations, religion, regardless of our passions. At our core, we can all hope that wanting the same things, like our loved ones to be safe, feeling respected, what having purpose looks like. I truly do not believe that to understand someone means that you have to agree with them, but you have to care enough to listen or understand how they got there in the first place. That is what Desensitized is about. Let's not force or change someone's mind. Let's give people the opportunity to explain how life shaped them before we make a decision on them. Let us take a step back and evaluate. Our initial reaction is sometimes to stereotype so easily. We're surrounded by constant information. Every day we're flooded with breaking news, opinions, arguments, social media, headlines, tragedy, celebration, and controversy. So many of us have so much information that eventually something begins to happen. We become desensitized. Not because we're bad people, not because we don't care, but because our minds can only process so much. Did you know that psychologists sometimes talk about something called habituation? The idea that when we're exposed to the same kinds of things over and over, our emotional response naturally becomes less intense. It's one way that our brains copes with constant stimulation. I think that we're seeing that happen in many parts of our lives. What does it mean to feel normal? We hear statistics instead of hearing stories. Somewhere along the way, we stopped seeing the human being behind the headline. That's what I'd like to talk about, because every single person watching this has lived a life that no one else has. You've experienced things I haven't. You've faced challenges I never will. You've celebrated victories I'll never fully understand. And that's true for all of us. Every person sees the world through a different lens. Our families shape us, our communities shape us, our successes shape us, our failures, our culture, our education, our fears, our faith, and our hopes. None of us arrive at our beliefs in exactly the same way. That doesn't mean that every opinion is equally supported by evidence, and it doesn't mean that we shouldn't ask the hard questions. But it does mean that understanding how someone reached a conclusion is often the beginning of a better conversation. That's why I created Desensitized. This isn't a show about telling you what to think. It's a show about learning how people think. My goal is simple: to have the conversations with people from every walks of life, people whose opinions I agree with, and people whose opinions I don't agree with, people from all different backgrounds, people in our communities, and everyday people whose stories deserve to be heard. Because sometimes the most interesting conversations don't happen with famous people. They're happening with our neighbors. One thing that's very important to me is I don't want this show to have one niche. Life doesn't have one niche. Some weeks we'll have difficult conversations, other weeks we'll laugh. We'll highlight amazing people doing incredible things in our community. We'll talk about businesses, we'll talk about local events, we'll celebrate what is happening right here in Saugus. We'll travel across Massachusetts and throughout New England to discover stories that deserve attention throughout America. We'll discuss history, innovation, science, arts, culture, community, and current events. Sometimes we'll simply point out the beauty that exists all around us, because life is all of those things. And I think our conversation should be too. I also want this show to belong to all of you. I want you to write me. Write in. Tell me what you're curious about. Tell me what topics you'd like us to explore. Suggest guests, ask questions, and share your experiences. Some of the best ideas for this show may come from people watching right now. I promise to approach those ideas with respect and curiosity. One commitment I want to make from the very beginning is about my integrity. I'm going to do my best to present information responsibly. When we discuss facts, I want them to be factual. And if you see something that might be brought to my attention, I'm holding you accountable to write me. When we explore opinions, I want it to be known that they're identified as opinions. I'm not here to manufacture outrage. I'm not interested in creating division just to get clicks and views. There's already enough places doing that. Instead, I want this to be a place where difficult conversations can happen respectfully. That doesn't mean we'll avoid disagreement, but disagreement can be healthy. It can teach us something. It can help us think more deeply. What matters is how we go about the disagreement. We can ask better questions. We can listen before we respond. We can challenge ideas without forgetting the humanity of the person sharing them, sitting next to us. And I hope we can. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm nervous. This is my first episode. I'm learning just like everybody else. I'm gonna make mistakes. And I'm sure that there's going to be moments where I'd wish I asked a better question or explained something more clearly. But I'm okay admitting that, because growth begins with humility. And if I'm going to ask guests to be open and vulnerable, I should be willing to do the same. Many of you know me through my work in filmmaking. Some of you know me as a small business owner. Others know me through community involvement. Over the past decade, I've fallen in love with this town. Serving on the Saugus Culture Council has shown me how much talent and generosity and creativity exists right here in our own community. I want to give back to this town and ensure that we maintain a home that makes us proud. It reminded me that meaningful stories aren't only found on national news. They're happening every day in our neighborhoods. I love this country, and I believe that America is at its best when we continue striving to improve it. That means asking difficult questions, holding leaders and institutions and agencies accountable, celebrating what is working, and being honest about what isn't, learning from one another. Not because we're trying to tear each other down, but because we're all sharing a responsibility to leave our communities a little better than the way we found them. Patriotism to me isn't about pretending everything is perfect. It's about caring enough to help make things better. And I do believe that we can do that together. Whether you consider yourself a conservative, a liberal, an independent, or none of the above, my hope is that we can move beyond labels, beyond the red, the versus the blue, beyond treating every conversation like a competition, and instead ask more questions, be more curious, keep our extreme views at bay. Even when we disagree, we still have something to learn from one another. And that's the heart of this show. Every conversation will begin with the belief that understanding another human being is never a waste of time. So, welcome to Desensitized. I'm Brittany Lyla Rubin. I am grateful that you are here. I want to thank Saugus Television for this opportunity. I don't expect you to agree with everything that's said on this show, but I hope that you'll stay curious, because at the end of the day, I might not agree with you, but I will always try to understand you. So, let's start the conversations.